Hello.
Yes, sir, done. Hello, sir.
Okay. It is still showing waiting. Waiting मध्ये दाखवत आहे ते. Okay, good afternoon. जरा चेक करा YouTube तुम्ही. It's showing everybody in waiting. Good afternoon. Last week, we had one interesting session under the
Good
platform of
afternoon, sir.
YouTube on केलं ना?
Yes, sir.
Under the platform of CII, wherein we had an interactive session with Dr. Anand Deshpande. Dr. Anand Deshpande is a founder and managing director of Persistent Systems, one of the leading IT company in India. The program was organized under the banner of CII. CII has formed a group called as Industry Academia Connect, wherein we invite a CEO of a leading company in India, and he talks to particularly the teaching community as well as the students. Last week we had a session with him wherein he did not just came and deliver the lecture, but we have sort of a panel of people who asked him few questions and he responded to them in a very interesting and positive way. Today I will be showing you the video recording of that program, which I am sure you will enjoy the same.
Hospitals, oxygen units, ventilators, and provided other equipment for healthcare. Many industries came forward to support the vaccination drive as well. Recently, CII has been active in interaction with the ministers and government officers, guiding industries for digital transformation, creating market access for Indian exporters, and conducting programs related to India at 75, the
हेलो करोडे सर ऍक्च्युली आवाज येत नाहीये सो वी नीड टू शेअर इट अगेन.
Hello, Karode sir. हॅलो करोडे सर, जेव्हा आपण व्हिडिओ शेअर करतो तेव्हा शेअर ॲज अ कम्प्युटर साऊंड करावं लागेल ते.
its activities. Now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Anand Deshpande to all of you. Dr. Anand Deshpande is the founder, chairman, and managing director of Persistent Systems since its inception and is responsible for the overall leadership, strategy, and management of the company. Anand started his schoolings in Madhya Pradesh and did his BTech in Computer Science and Engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology, Kharagpur, and completed his Masters as well as PhD in the Computer Science from the Indiana University, USA. Dr. Anand started his company in the year 1990 as a database firm by investing around 21,000 US dollars, probably the contributing now around 14 to 15 lakhs as of now value from his savings, as well as he borrowed some money from his father as well as the relatives. Since 1990, the Persistent has moved a long way, and in the last 31 years, the company spread and is having currently the 7 locations from Pune, Bangalore, Mumbai, as well as the Goa, the Nagpur, Hyderabad, and is having around 70,000 plus employees. And pleasure to share with you that the Persistent has recently entered into the club of billionaire in the last few months. Before starting his company, Dr. Anand he started his professional career at HP, California. As a true technology visionary, Anand's strength lies in identifying and investing in the next generation technology and moreover encouraging the youth to become an entrepreneur. Anand is the founding member of Spirit, India's first product think tank, started with the vision of creating vibrant entrepreneurs ecosystem in India. Along with the members of his family, he has established the Asara Foundation, a non-profit entity organization which focuses on creating self-employment at scale. Anand is recognized by his alma mater, IIT Kharagpur, as a distinguished alumnus in the year 2012 and by the School of Informatics of Indiana University with the Career Achievement Award in the year 2007. Anand served numerous positions at various professional and non-profit organizations. Few to mention here is he is a NASSCOM's Executive Council member, followed by the Association for Computing Machinery India, where he was the first president. Software Exports Association of Pune, he is a member, and also actively participated in the activities of CSI as well as the CII. Currently, he serves as a trustee of Persistent Foundation and also the member of the Dean's Advisory Council in the School of Informatics of Indiana University. Anandji is married to Sonali and have a daughter and also son. Dr. Anandji is the most humble and down-to-earth person. It is pleasure to have such a vibrant personality today with us for this 7th CEO Connect and the interactive session. On the behalf of CII, we once again welcome you, sir, and I request you to start your session. Anandji, sir, please.
I'm taking a little break because at this point of time, we had a little technical problem in terms of communication. So I will jump few minutes ahead from where the session started.
त्याचे व्हिडिओ ऑन आहे आता.
व्हिडिओ बंद आहे. हा,
व्हिडिओ ऑन आहे, ऑडिओ बंद आहे. तर तिथे 2
but I'm on my phone right now, but at least for some time this should be okay. Okay, so sorry, we were just starting out. I hope the audio is okay right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yes,
sir.
I can hear you properly.
Yes, sir.
So let me start by first thanking all of you for inviting me here for this meeting. It's, as I said, it's always a pleasure to interact with folks from Nashik. I've had the opportunity of talking to the Software Exporters Group or the Software Association of Nashik a few months back, and it was a very enriching experience. Also, an invitation from Shrikant Karode is not something I can say no to. So partly that was another reason for my agreeing to be on this show. It's always a pleasure to talk to students, okay? And when you are talking to students, I want to start by sharing some good news or exciting news in the following way. I believe that most of the students who are attending this show are probably between the age of, let's say, 18 to 22, in that zone, because typically that's sort of where the students are. And the reality is that most of these students are going to live past 100 actually. And many of these students are likely to live to 125 as well, because of the advances in medical technology and various other things that we are doing right now. It is very clear that the longevity of people is going to increase very significantly. The consequence of this is that most of you will not retire for a very long time. So you need to be working for at least 75 to, until you are 75, 80, or even beyond that. So if you are looking at a situation where you are going to be working for the next 60 years or so, from the age 22 to the age, 82 or at least 80, you're looking at time period where you're going to be working from, let's say, 2022, 2023, all the way to 2080, 2081 in that zone. And most of you are going to see 2100. So the reality is that, and if you look at the technology advances that we have seen in our world in the last few years, it is very clear that, if you look, and I've been in this profession now, running Persistent for 31 years. And if I were to look at just computer and technology in the last 30 to 31 years, and look at the last 10 years or the last 5 years, it is very clear that the next 10, 5, 20, 30 years are going to see this kind of dramatic change in technology over the next several years. So whatever we are learning right now is going to be sort of, I wouldn't say irrelevant, but certainly very different when we look ahead at our future. So this is a very tricky problem for students to think about. So I'm going to park this question for us for taking on when we look at the question answer session. But clearly this is something to think about, that most of the students here are going to work from 2022, 2023, all the way to 2082. Okay, so we will have no idea about exactly what the world might look like 10 years from now, but students are going to work for another 40 years after that as well, or even 50 years after that. So this is a really tricky situation. And sometimes as faculty members or academics or senior people in the industry, we always believe that we know a lot. Unfortunately, the reality of exponential world is that whatever has happened so far is going to happen in the next cycle again. So really, this pace of exponential growth means that all of us are, will have to learn how to learn and how to move on as we go ahead, rather than depend on what we have learned in the past. So this is one very important concept I wanted to share with all of you. The second idea that I want to mention to you is that we in India are in a very fortunate place. I would say most of you who are students today should consider themselves lucky to have been born at this time in India, when we are looking at a set of opportunities for all of you that are unprecedented in terms of both the technology roadmap as we look ahead, and we will talk about that as part of the Q&A discussion, but also as part of the India opportunities, that if I were to look ahead in terms of what is possible. We are already amongst the top 5 economies of the world. Moving ahead, we will be a top 3 economy within the next 5 to 7 years for sure. Definitely before 2030, it'll be India, China, US will be the top 3 economies of the world. We are already in the top 5. So clearly, we are going to be expected to play a role that is consistent with our positioning in the economy. So we will be expected to not just be third world or whatever else. We will be a developed country, and we'll have a role to play in the future. And when we say we, it's going to be you students who are going to make that happen. The second thing that you would notice is that if you see now, for the last 18 to 24 months almost, we've been working from home or working online and all of that. If you have observed in general, the equipment and the technology and the solutions and the network has by and large survived relatively well. Of course, it can always be better. But if you had imagined this pandemic about 10 years back, life would have been far more complex and difficult. The fact that we are doing this in 2021, 22 now has definitely shown us that our network, our capabilities are relatively good. We have more than 1 billion people who have personal smart devices with them in some form or the other. And if there's a small number, I would say right now we may be near 800 million, but I would say by the time you look at the next 2 years or so, every individual with anything in India, meaning 1 billion people in India, will have smartphones or smart devices with them. So this is definitely happening. If you look at India, and if India is very unique in many ways, that we have some of the finest next generation fintech infrastructure, such as the RuPay card, but more importantly UPI, and how we have been able to get bank accounts for all the people and all the other arrangements that have been made. It is quite amazing to see how we have completely transformed the way payments are happening in India, and how many payments we are able to handle, and all the infrastructure that has been created as guide rails for, so the UPI infrastructure and other things that have been created are quite phenomenal. And this gives India a great opportunity. And in fact, it gives all of you who are important students here a great opportunity to look at various kinds of things that can happen. Relating to that, I want to mention one other very important thing, is that a lot of times, especially parents, are very paranoid about jobs, job creation, and the ability to find jobs. One of the things that I want to share with you is that as we look ahead and as I see ahead, I believe that each one of you must become an entrepreneur. And you will have to in some sense. And all of us who are all privileged here in this room, I think it is our responsibility to become job creators rather than be job seekers. And this is something that I would like to encourage students and colleges to think about, is to not necessarily count on the number of jobs that you have given, or the jobs that the recruitment PNP comes and say, okay, we have had so many students that have gotten, fat jobs. But really, we would like to see how many students have gone ahead and created their own, industries or businesses so that eventually we have more job creators in the market. So that's another mission that I'm very actively pursuing, and I'd be happy to talk more about some of those kinds of ideas as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. Now, if you think about this whole combination of entrepreneurial energy that we have among the youth that we have, the fact that technology is evolving in some interesting ways as we look ahead, and the fact that in India we have large number of people who are potentially consumers of our technology, with 1 billion cell phones and all the other things that I mentioned, and various other such things, such as the various industries and other things going on. So I think this opportunity is amazing for students who are here, and I'm very excited that in the next an hour or so, whatever time we have, I look forward to having a very engaging conversation with all of you to figure out ways to say how can you as students sort of take advantage of the opportunities that India presents to all of us in terms of the technology roadmap, the large number of available people and everything else that is going on. And I'm looking forward to a very exciting conversation on this topic. I'll stop here and I will try to sort of see if we can get into the conversation phase. I'm going to try to make one attempt to see, I just rebooted my machine. As they say, if you can't figure out what to do, you just reboot, which is what I did. So now I'm on the phone.
It will be better. That will be better.
I'll try one more time to see if I can get on a better device, but otherwise we are still on. Unfortunately, sometimes when the event is very important, then Murphy always is waiting for you. I must say we had tested all of this stuff, and I'm trying out some fancy equipment, including good lights here. But sorry, the computer decided to give me a ditch.
Anand, thank you very much once again. On my personal behalf also, I would like to thank you. Let's start the discussion. We have collected few questions which we have worked out along with the students as well as the other community who are interested in listening to you. The first point which I would like to have your knowledge or your opinion on that, particularly if you look at last 10 to 15 years, there is a tremendous advancement in the technology. Probably when I look back about 10 to 12 years, the kind of computer, mobile which I was handling and what is available today, we have a long way. And not just the technology for the business or industry, it has reached to the lowest level of the person in this country.
Correct.
And it has helped his or her life in a big way. Whether it is a Janadhana bank account or whether it is Aadhaar card, all this technology, or even latest is the COVID, where everybody is recorded completely on the computer system or on the technology. So then, when we are here today incidentally in the just first month of 2022, what you see over the next 10 to 15 years, at least till 2040?
Well, 2040, nobody knows. I don't know what's going to happen that far away. Unfortunately, the way technology is moving right now, it's very hard to predict very far ahead in the future. But let me try to tell you. So, Karoda sir, you would remember now 10 years back, we were talking a lot about cloud computing, big data, and some of those things. So those have all happened now. So if I have to look ahead and I were to try to give you a sense on a few things that I think are going to be super important or going to be the top 5 things that I would worry about right now or I think about, one would, of course, be machine learning and this whole machine learning, data science, artificial intelligence, and variations of thereof, right? So a lot of different kinds of things are starting to happen, which would come out of our understanding of machine learning, data science, and some of these other things. And I think if you look at the rapid advances, and for those of you who are just curious to see what's going on, I would encourage you to go to GPT-3, which is the OpenAI platform about, this. It's a very nice platform. You can go online, just log in and start playing with it. You don't need to have any other computing equipment. You just can put on a browser and you can play around with it. And you would be amazed to see the examples and the way you can interact with the computer and how these general patterns are being already done. So you can see already the power of machine learning at various kinds of amazing applications that we are starting to see in the market. And I believe we are early in the game in the sense that all of these things have the curve which you sort of start slow and then you see the hockey stick effect. I think we are not quite we are just at the beginning or the first stage of machine learning applications. The algorithms and all have been around for a while, of course, but now we are now in a position to see exactly how these are going to happen. The second interesting area where I see a lot of action, and this is again going to do with devices and various other things, is to see the improvements or the changes I see with respect to robotics or drones or some of these sort of machines of this different kinds that have started to become intelligent in different ways. There is machine learning and various other things that are part of this, and this whole environment of building these next generation medicine. And I would say that if you look at things like even medical devices or any of these kinds of devices, and the fact that compute and technology is part of the device, so those are very exciting to me. So I think that would be a second big area that I want to emphasize as things that you might want to look at. The third area that I'm going to mention here, and I'm sort of being biased towards the sort of computer science type areas because that's my area of expertise. So I'm not picking on areas from biotechnology or I would say from chemistry or other things. But the third area that I would say as kind of very relevant would be, and which is imminent, is this whole stuff around edge computing and 5G networks and various other things like that. So I think this piece of infrastructure should get deployed in the market in the next 3 to 5 years. And once that gets deployed, some of these devices will become even more powerful because today the devices are limited by the amount of storage and network and all of those kinds of things. With 5G and edge computing, that infrastructure that is getting rolled in, many of these things would be far more efficient and effective. So that would be my number 3 idea. The number 4 idea that I'm going to share is relating to Metaverse. Okay, so clearly Facebook felt this was so cool that they renamed themselves Meta. But if you see what is happening in the context of broadly the things around Second Life or more so around augmented reality, virtual reality, and how physical and the virtual worlds are coming together and they are blending in very interesting ways. I see this as a great opportunity for next generation of things, especially with the compute and other infrastructure that we have in place. And the last important thing that I would mention is this whole, I'm quite fascinated and very anxiously looking at all the work around crypto and NFTs, DeFi, which is decentralized finance, and all of that work which is going on, which is broadly being classified today as Web 3.0. So those would be my 5 technology areas that I would think are things that are imminent in the next few years. And I'm sort of personally very active and intrigued by, and I'm studying quite a bit. I have a personal curiosity, I would say, in the areas of genetics and biology. So I believe that we are at the early stages of this in the India context. I think if you look at the mRNA vaccine that came out from Pfizer, that's just a glimpse of what might happen. But I believe artificial foods or biofoods, biofuel, bio this, bio that, that is going to be a huge, huge opportunity. So if I were not doing computer science, or even if I were doing computer science, but I was at 20-year-old at this moment, I would focus on biology over computer science at the moment because the next 25 to 30 years in biology are going to be very different. Unfortunately, my knowledge in that subject is limited at the moment, and I would not want to sort of say, what are the trends in biology, but I'm very curious and I'm spending quite a bit of my time reading about how this can make a difference. I'm going to try to switch the device. I think I am able to get on another one.
Okay.
So I'm going to try to see if this works.
Yes, sir, please.
Okay, let's see. This might give you an echo. I'll cut off this audio first and then.
मैडम तुम्हें अनम्यूट करा.
Sorry, I'm not able to. It's still taking.
Okay, I will now request Mrs. Bhamre to ask you the next point.
Yeah, continue with
Yes.
the conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Karade sir. Thanks a lot, Deshpande sir, for highlighting the key technological changes, the 5 basic areas, and including the genetics as the upcoming field. So my question to you is, how should the students prepare themselves while they are in the campus? I mean, the campus life today is restricted, but how should they, I mean, we're assuming that soon the colleges would begin. So how should they prepare while they are in campus for these technological challenges and changes which are taking place?
Can you hear me at all? No.
Yeah, now we can.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Audio clear आहे का?
Yes, yes, yes.
ऑडिओ माहित नाही कुठल्या डिव्हाइस मधनं येतोय. माझ्याकडे दोन्ही ऑन आहेत. मोबाईलच्या डिव्हाइस मधनं येतोय मला वाटतं आणि त्या दुसऱ्या याच्यावरनं व्हिडिओ येतोय. बट एनिवे ठीक आहे.
But it is clear, no problem. No problem.
Should I repeat?
No, so so your question was regarding what should students do now in the whole context of where this needs to go.
Right.
So let me say the following. Okay, so I have been thinking about students and what should students do in these very difficult situations. More than that, when in a world where things are changing so rapidly, how should students behave in this whole kind of context, right? So this is a very tricky question from the student's point of view and even from the faculty point of view. What do I teach students and all of that stuff? So I want to give you a few sort of anecdotal examples, and I may not be very popular with the faculty when I say some of these things, but anyway, that's the benefit that I have. So I've been attending many of these, if you see 15-year, 20-year reunions and things like that. And what I find in some of these reunions and other things is that you meet a lot of people who are spending, let's say, the 25 years after college and all that, and you will find that most of them have very little to say about any of the courses that they have learned. Very often you will find that people who do engineering also don't actually work in the area in which they did engineering. And if you look at their careers of 25 to 30 years, they would have changed their fields so often that what they are doing now has actually very little relevance to any of the courses that they did. And more often than not, when you ask them, what do you remember from your college? They are likely to talk about the time they wasted with other friends rather than talk about anything that they learned in class. Okay. So now, if this is the reality of what people are likely to remember after 30 years, why are we spending so much time trying to convince everyone that you should learn more of this and more of that, right? So this is one of the tricky things that I found. And I find that getting students to do experimental work, playing around with things is a very handy stuff. And if we can do more of that, then I think that is far more useful. So, I have 4 or 5 things that I think students should learn while they are in college, in addition to whatever colleges teach you. So first is, you have to understand that in this world that I described to you, where you're going to be working for 60 years and you're going to have this changing environment and you have no idea what technology is, the only skill that you will get you around is your ability to learn effectively. So you have to learn how to learn. That is the key skill that you must acquire while you are in college. The second skill that I think, which is very important, and we in India, and especially Indians and Marathi and all of those, we don't do very well, is we are very poor at networking. See, you have to understand that, we all live in a world where we trust each other on the basis of who we know. So I accepted this invitation to come here because I know Karode sir. If he has invited me, I have to come, right? So that network connect that he had with me, and why we have it is because of his CSI thing, that he was a CSI, vice president, and he was very senior officer in the Computer Society of India, and I respect him. I respect the society because I know the CSI did good work, and that's how I got to know him. So there was a relationship and trust that got created in the past, which helped me build this thing, and I had no hesitation accepting this invitation. So we work on this model of trusting each other, and this trust is a network that comes out of deliberately creating these relationships between people. So while you are students, you should learn how to be friends with other friends and learn how to network with each other, because this ability to network, connect with other people is going to be very crucial when you look at your future, because it is impossible today to sort of, learn on your own. So how are you going to learn in the future? You're going to learn from other friends and other people. So you're going to have the ability to pick somebody who is experienced, pick their brain, ask them questions, and then get answers. And that's how you're going to learn. So who you know and how well you know people, how you cultivate your network is going to be very critical for your success. So that'll be the second skill that I would suggest. The third skill, people talk a lot about communication skills, and I don't doubt the importance of communication skills, but I would extend that to say that, you should learn how to sell. I think selling skills are going to be very critical. I believe that we are heading into a world where we will see a gig economy. By the gig economy, what I mean by gig economy is that everyone will have to do their own gig. So imagine this situation that, if you want to build a movie, right? So typically what happens is that when a producer decides he wants to put a movie together, he finds a studio, he finds the music director, this director, that director, he collects the actors, they do their job, and at the end of the job, the entire team is sort of dissolved and a new team gets formed in the next one. So essentially those people who are working on that movie do a gig, they get paid for that movie. They don't have a full-time job in some sense. The actors don't have a full-time job. They have a job to the extent of that movie. So this kind of world is going to happen for all kinds of things in the future. We are going to have, you see this in Uber, where you have Uber drivers, but if you look at IPL players, you look at Chris Gayle or any of these players, they are playing in multiple teams at the same time. So this kind of gig economy is going to happen. And if you have to survive in the gig economy, your ability to do sales is going to be very critical. If you look at any business, the main skill, the most important skill is sales skill. If you're not able to handle sales, then you have no chance in some sense to survive in a market. So I think every student needs to learn how to sell. And for various reasons, the engineers somehow feel like sales is not their problem. Oh, we are engineers, we don't do sales. But I think this is a wrong conception that people have. And the last thing that I want to mention is relating to ability to manage your own cash flow. So the reality is that, you're going to collect money, you're going to get paid, you're going to make a lot of money actually over the period. That's the reality of how the world is going to move. But the reality, you may not get paid every month in a regular way, and you may not have to worry only on savings and various other things. So you need to understand how to manage your own cash and your own cash flow. So again, just to summarize, the first C is continuous learning. The second one that I mentioned to you was relating to how to make connections, build a network, right? The third thing I mentioned was how to sell, meaning sales skill. And the fourth one I mentioned was how to manage cash. So those would be my four most important skills beyond, of course, technology and technology skills. But if you learn how to learn and your continuous learning capabilities will keep you going. And these are skills you must pick up very early on. You'll keep learning for the rest of your life, but if you don't know how to learn very well, you will not succeed. And it's not easy to do, meaning everyone has a different style of how they learn. So you have to understand what you have to know for yourself, what works for you, and how can you do that very effectively.
Thank you so much, sir. I request Nandurkar sir to please pose the next question.
Yeah, thank you.
One comment I would have is
Yeah.
that, sure, we can do this Q&A thing, but if you, Karode sir, if you disagree or you would like to add something, or anybody else would like to add anything to this, feel free to, chime in.
Definitely, sir. We will ask the participants to send your any questions or anything
In the chat box, we can,
in the chat box.
get it in the chat
Yeah,
box. And
we
then
will
we
ask
can
it.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Deshpande sir, for your two important comments. First, you talk about the technological changes. Then you talked about the abilities which the students should have in the campus life so that they can face those technological changes. Now, in the coming period, we say that we are training, especially from the educational point of view for academic, we are training the students for the jobs which are not existing today. So it is said that there will be totally different jobs in the coming period. And we are talking about a very long period, say 40, 50 years or say 60 years for the students who are graduating now. So in such a long period, there will be definitely changes in the structure of the job or how the job will look like in that period. So if you can throw some light on that how the jobs will look like, and then obviously what skills students should develop so that they can cope up with those jobs or take up those jobs and become successful in their career.
Sir, unmute. Sir, Deshpande sir, unmute.
Yeah. Is this okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what I already answered most of this question anyway. So what I believe is that, one, I think all students should think about being entrepreneurs, and we are looking at a world where, and I'm going to quote a book that I love, and this particular book is called Me Enterprise, right? And this is written by a friend of ours called Ashok Shah. And his idea is that the way we are looking at this in the future is going to be that everyone is an entrepreneur. And when you work for a company, the company is your customer in a sense. And when I suggested this gig economy and said in an actor works in a film and then he'll get picked or not picked depending on whatever happens, these are all ways of how, the gig worker is going to happen. So I believe that jobs are going to become a little different when we look at it a few years from now. And COVID in some sense has exaggerated this, this trend in some sense. So I think we are going to see that. And since we are going to see these kinds of work patterns changing dramatically, I believe that we will have the skills that I shared already in terms of, continuous learning, and the fact that you need to learn how to manage your cash, selling skills, and the ability to make connections and network. How do you build networks? Those are all very critical skills for students to learn. So those would be my top skills that students should learn.
Okay, thank you.
And
Thank
I
you,
want to leave one more idea with students. Okay, so this is something to think about, right? So when you one is, I don't want you to get overly obsessed with jobs and the job market. Okay, nobody gets rich doing a job. Think about doing your own business, and you will be quite successful in getting there, and you can handle that much more effectively. So I don't want you to get too obsessed about jobs and employment as much as create jobs for other people by becoming an entrepreneur.
Right, sir. Thank you. Yeah, Bamre madam.
Yes. So does it mean that right now the students should focus on developing their entrepreneurial skills as considering their long-term career, which could span between 30 to 40 years? Is that the key point we should take away from this question?
My telling that is not going to happen, meaning I know students are very interested in jobs, and more than
Yes, sir.
students, their parents believe that jobs are critical, and we have this whole thing that people who don't get any jobs eventually are the ones who are going to start their own businesses. And that's the reality of what I'm aware of. I'm just trying to promote to students this whole idea that there are many opportunities, so don't get dejected if you don't get a specific job. But just in case of you're looking for jobs or whatever else, see, I can explain to you a little bit about how the job process, meaning how do people do the hiring process in companies. So what happens is that people come to campus, and yes, we come to campus, we look at students. There's a lot of students, we usually have limited time, so people end up ranking or picking students depending on grades, or you create cutoffs and all that stuff. So you get a set of people. Now, usually what is happening is that most of us who are recruiting are trying to fill in saying that, okay, we want to recruit 10 students or 5 students or 3 students. So you're trying to pick the best of those available. And in that context, how do you differentiate yourselves and how do you seem unique and different becomes kind of critical and important. So your ability to answer questions and sort of being creative and being able to sort of impress someone because you are thinking very differently, or you are capable of, being sort of a little bit more, different and unique, can be a good way to find yourselves a better job, is my short advice to you.
Okay, sir.
Great, sir. Just continuing this entrepreneurship idea. Dear sir, many of the students, they have a wonderful idea, but those ideas will end up in the form of an academic project. They did not continue it because of fear of failure or scale up, or because of not having the sufficient funds, not knowing the ideas where the funds will come. Any message to such type of students?
So it's a big problem. It's a very big question at this point, is what I would say right now. So let me give you a few things in this. So one is, of course, I run a non-profit of my own. It's a family foundation we call the Asara Foundation. Okay. And it's a very much a family foundation in the sense, like just like you have Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or Michael and Susan Dell Foundation. We call it the Asara because D is for Deshpande and ASRA are the initials of the family members, my wife and 2 kids. And we are really focused on helping people to become entrepreneurs and helping people to be successful as entrepreneurs. And right now, I run a Marathi magazine, which is available online. It is called Yashasvi Udyojak. So you can go to yashasviudyojak.in or yashasviudyojak.com, and you should be able to subscribe to a magazine that we have, which is electronic, and you'll get an email from us 3 times a week. And I'm answering lots of these questions as part of that magazine, and we profile businesses and entrepreneurs and all of those kind of things. Now, with that background, let me just say the following, and I'll give you another hint in another place where I did a show for AICTE. This is the All India Institute of College, the technical education, and on how to start a business. So if you go online on YouTube, you should be able to see that. So there's a 1.5 hour session on how to get started. But let me give you very briefly what you need to do when you are trying to do a startup. The first thing you should think about is to think about the customer. No business happens without a customer. So don't do something because you know how to do it. Think about who's going to buy it. So if there is no user and no pain and no problem to solve, then there is no business actually. So the first and the most important thing to think about is to think about the customer, the context in which the customer is going to buy your product, and how are you going to build something that aligns to customer's requirement. So first the customer, and then building something that's valuable for the customer is the second most important thing that you need to do. And how to do it, there are techniques, and it's fairly well understood in terms of what the process is. Just because you do these kinds of things doesn't mean that every business will succeed, but I can promise you, you will learn a lot in trying to do your own business. And then in addition to that, of course, you need to know how to manage cash, how to manage your money, and also build a team. So those would be the 3 or 4 basic minimum things that I would encourage everyone to think about. But there is a lot of literature, and there are ways to get started. And I can tell you without any hesitation that being an entrepreneur is certainly very exciting, and a lot of different things you will learn in running your own business. Now, if many of you who are starting out are hesitating or whatever else, join a smaller company. That would give you another set of experience in trying to say, you can be on your own. At least you can see the pain of the founder and be part of it to some extent.
Great. So we also encourage the students to start with their career with a small company. Dear sir, can you little bit share your journey from California to Pune? And moreover, when you started your business in the year 1990, how the families, the friends, as well as society reacted? Because you might have left an important job and it was the most decent in the California. So, and you started one of the most struggling journey in the year 1990. Can you throw a little bit on this?
Right. So, it was not as complicated as people think it was, actually. I knew I wanted to do something on my own. And while I had a good job there, I knew I could get another job at any time. So I was not at all worried about my ability to. For me, the risk was limited to sort of saying, I started early. I was 28 when I started the business. I had a PhD, so I had a full-on qualification. I had worked at a pretty nice company in Hewlett-Packard, which was one of the top companies at that time. I was working in the Bay Area. I had a good network of people that I knew already. So I knew I could get my way back into the ecosystem very easily. So I was not afraid or the risk that, so I didn't start like an 18-year-old jumping out of nowhere with nothing else to do, right? So I knew I could get back and I was well qualified to do my job. So that was a benefit in my sense. And I encourage students to complete education, study as much as you can, because some of these opportunities that you get to network and learn are very valuable and they are your insurance in some sense to be successful. When I came back, of course, I was very keen to work from India and I moved back and I started the business. I started in 1990, around the time when, the software technology parks had just started out. We were the first company in STP in Pune and the industry was starting to just happen. And I must say I was at the right place at the right time. And while I say this, the reality is that when you say you are at the right place at the right time, unfortunately, you don't know it when you are there. So you find out that you were at the right place at the right time
Very difficult.
10 years later. Okay.
Yeah.
So problem is you may have been at that right place at the right time, but you may have moved away also, right? So you never know. So the fact that I was at the right place at the right time, yes, that is true. But the fact that I stayed on with it and I did not give up is what is different, because there are many other people who were also at that place, but they realized that maybe this was not going to work out and they moved on, right? So the fact is that, yeah, you don't know that you are at the right place. So you have to be determined and you have to be persistent to be successful. And when you asked about family and all that, of course, my family was very supportive. I would start with so I got married very soon after I came back. So I was single when I came back. And within 3 months, I was married. So my father-in-law was willing and brave enough to say that he will give his daughter to me, even though I had no job. Okay, of course, I was qualified, but the business had not started. My parents were also very supportive to the extent that my father actually joined the business. He started working for me, and I was his boss for almost 22 years. So I was the CEO and founder and managing director. He was a director in the company, and he was hands-on on the administration and other areas, HR and other places, while I was doing sales, engineering, and some of those things. So, family was not just supportive, they were very supportive in what I was doing. And of course, and this is another thing that I want to mention, that a lot of times there is this belief that when you have entrepreneurs and all of that stuff, you are looking at taking lots of risks and all that. The reality is that smart entrepreneurs figure out or spend enough time thinking through all the situations so that they eliminate risks rather than take risks. So it might seem risky, but it's the whole point is to make sure you know enough and you've thought through it enough. You've looked at various alternatives, that you have a good understanding of what risks you are taking, and you sort of manage your risks by, not being stupid about some of these things. So you don't just try to say, okay, I'm going to overnight do something crazy. So that is really what entrepreneurs do very well. They don't take stupid risks. A lot of times these things are all common sense. There are people get if you sort of get it to your head that you'll never do anything wrong and everything has to be the way it is and you are going to double every year, then you run into all kinds of risks and you take risks that are stupid. But if you are sensible, then you think through all your things that you are doing, then it is quite possible to understand the risks that you have and manage them effectively.
Great, great. And sir, in this last 31 years of journey, is it at any moment you thought that job would have been better? If so, how you overcome it?
No, I mean, it never occurred to me actually. No, but I didn't ever feel like I need to be working for someone.
Because these young entrepreneurs might be thinking, those who started the business just now, many times in their mind it is coming, no, that side would have been much better to me.
No, so personality wise, I'm not the kind of person who I think a lot before taking a decision, but once I take a decision, I don't keep going back into it. So having made a choice, I was not ever going to go back and say, you have to move ahead, right? So you don't always look back and say, oh, if I had done this, then what would have happened? That's not how people should be thinking about things. The reality is that, I would say I was lucky. As I said, I was at the right place at the right time. Things happened well. And we were fairly viable within the first 6 months. After 6 months of running the business, I knew for sure that we would not tank. Meaning, it was a question of how fast we want to grow, but the fact that we knew what we were doing and the business will happen was never in doubt.
Some of the questions we are getting, sir.
You can ask one or two out of
Yeah.
I think it is related to COVID work from home. Karode sir, you can elaborate on that.
See, sir, COVID has changed the entire world. It has affected almost every person in the world, in all the country, everywhere. And particularly, it has affected the business also. The economy has shattered. All the rich economies also are going through a huge distress. What I would like to ask you on behalf of all the students who are quite anxious about all these things, that assuming that the COVID gets over in a short time, maybe a year or two or whatever the time, we don't know about. But what is going to be the business world post-COVID? What is going to be industry world post-COVID?
See, I think, we have in the last, so this question would have been very relevant maybe 18 months or 16 months back. I think people have moved on. I think everyone has accepted that COVID is going to be an endemic. We are going to see this epidemic and it's going to be all over the time. We'll have to deal with these kinds of things. But the reality is that people have to live, eat, breathe, drink water, whatever else. So things have to happen. Things must go on. And if you look at it from the technology industry, it's clear that the fact that we are able to work in a distributed model, and this would have to be the way it's going to happen in the future. So hybrid working, work from anywhere, and sort of enabling all of that stuff, creating customer experiences where physical presence is not essential for every activity is going to be the way forward. And I think we are all geared up for doing that.
Okay. Shavakar sir, have you filtered some questions from asked by the students?
Sir, your message for the second generation entrepreneurs?
Keep doing it, right? Meaning, I think they don't need that much of inspiration as such because they already have something going on. But they can always build on what is there. And I think if they are starting 2 steps ahead, I think it's their responsibility to keep the business going or do what is right for the business as they look ahead.
And one question is, sir, there are many the businesses are there, many startups are there in the Silicon Valley compared to India. So anything it is to do with the education system?
You should tell me. I don't know the reality. I'm not, I don't know if I want to comment it directly on the education system, but I think the ecosystem the Silicon Valley ecosystem is quite amazing, and people are the network people, the people get to know each other very well. There are many forums, many activities, and people learn from each other. And educational institutions such as Stanford and Berkeley have played a big role in the ecosystem out there. So yes, that has been there. But I think if you look ahead in the next few years, some of these ecosystems are starting to develop in India as well. So they may not look just like the Silicon Valley, but I think we are moving in the right direction, is what I would say.
Any more questions, Agartha sir?
One is there that Web 3.0, something that looks exciting, but as it is the new, it is full of uncertainty at the same time. So what are your views on this Web 3.0?
No. So I've been tracking it very closely. I believe that it's going to happen. I think there is a lot of opportunity. There is a new set of way of how people are looking at decentralization. And I think there are many applications for which a decentralized web, which is what Web 3.0 talks about, can be very valuable and very relevant. So I would definitely look at it.
Okay.
One is something related to network. Already you shared approaching to investor or funding.
See, again, let me say the following in the context of investors and funding, is that, see, when you go to an investor is looking for returns. No investor is interested in investing in your company unless he sees a way for getting returns. Now, what is meant by returns is that if I give you some money, let's say 10 lakh rupees, over a period of 3 to 5 years, I must be able to take out 50 lakhs from your business. Take out. Not that your business is valued that much. So this is kind of critical. So unless you understand and have a model to help investors make money off your business, no investor would be interested in investing money in your business. And you should not go to investors with plans that do not generate 5-10 times, not 5%, 10%, 5 to 10 times returns over the next 3 to 5 years. So that is what the investors are expecting. And they are expecting that they should be able to pull this money back out. Otherwise, it's not very interesting for investors. So if you have businesses that are able to generate that kind of money and you are able to demonstrate that, then you should go talk to the investors. Otherwise, borrow money from friends and family.
Your views on blockchain technology in the coming decades?
No, so that's what, Web3 is going to be based on blockchain technology. So yeah, I think it's a very good set of innovations out there, and you have to pick the right applications. But if the applications are decentralized, then blockchain is a very nice way of addressing that.
But if there is no other question,
I think the questions are of similar type.
Yeah, or similar nature. So
Yeah.
we don't have to repeat that. He has already covered most of the things.
No, if you have any other questions other than what is
what was covered, that can be asked. That can be asked. That can be asked.
And if
right.
you have any ideas of, you want to disagree with me on some of these points, that will be good. It's always good to have. What is your opinion on what you should be teaching in colleges?
Bamre, madam.
Sir, the point which you said that we should be developing these main 4 skills of networking, ability to learn, being creative. I mean, this is from the point of view of instead of being a job seeker, trying to be a job provider, but it's this particular mindset of the students when they come to college. It's very difficult to do that. So how can we inculcate these attitudes among the students? I mean, we do have certain projects starting from first year, second year, and also, but being creative and to be in that mode of networking with different people, not just within the department, but in other disciplines. We find this entire curriculum sometimes very I mean, it's in compartments. So this is something which we need to also break and I mean, offer courses. So that is what we need to offer in curriculum. But basically, I think this attitude of having job in mind while taking admission is something we need to address. Otherwise, it's very difficult to inculcate any such what you call tendencies to go towards entrepreneurship. That is what I feel.
I'll tell you two things that I've been recommending to ICT and other people who are willing to listen. First thing I've been trying to suggest is that instead of having these micro departments in colleges, so like in just mechanical, well, take computer science and you have people are creating BTech in blockchain, BTech in artificial intelligence. So there's like a lot of these things happening. Instead of doing that, I think what I've been trying to recommend is to just sort of merge all the departments into one. Don't worry about departments. But anyway, that's not very relevant. Allow students to do courses that are useful to them. So over a period of time, give them some flexibility to construct their own program that makes sense for them. So that's one idea. Of course, there are issues when you do that because there'll be certain department courses that nobody might take. So what happens to that? So those are all important issues to think about. But the reality is that when you look at people few years later on, you find that most of the times, the fact that I did these civil engineering courses may not be that relevant, or whatever I need to do, I have to learn on the job anyway. So that's how I look at it. The second idea that I've been trying to tell colleges especially is that, see, you take someone who has graduated from your college 10, 15 years back, they also need to keep learning all the time. Where will they go to learn? So encourage them to come back to college. So don't look at students as students that are with you for 4 years, between 18 and 22, but think about creating students for life. So sell lifelong learning subscriptions to all your students so they can be learning for the rest of your life. The third thing I suggest to colleges is that in your classes that you have regularly, allow 20% of the students to be returning professionals. Okay. So let's say you're teaching a class on machine learning or whatever else. Allow professionals to join that class along with your undergrad students. This has three-way benefit for you. First benefit is that students now get 10, 15 professionals who are in their class with whom they will do projects together. So clearly those project quality, how projects are getting built, and the network of 5 to 10 professionals that they have now participated in a class project will help them. So by the time they graduate, they would have had class projects with about 100 different professionals over a period of 4 years. So now they have 100 professionals that they know already very well. So they may be able to get, that network will help them. Now, if you look at professionals from the 30-year-olds or the 40-year-olds, they also want to interact with the young 18, 19, 20-year-olds because they create new ideas for everyone. So these projects can be very exciting if 20, 25% of your class comprises of professionals who are returning back for that class. So you have to create micro credits. You have to allow people to come in for 1 credit at a time. So take a 3 credit course, divide it into 3 1 credit courses, allow people to do 1 credit course out of it, allow students with professionals just for project related work. So there has to be some creative thinking on how to make that happen. The other benefit that colleges will have is that if you take a student and you charge him fees for all the courses you offer, which would be roughly 30 courses, 30 credits, or whatever number of hours you can calculate, 5 and 5, 10 courses you offer in a year, you are able to charge like 80,000 rupees or something like that. So you can charge broadly, for let's say, I would say 5 courses or 10 courses, 80,000. So you charge about 8,000 rupees per course. You can easily charge 20,000 rupees to the professional for that course. And especially if you do 3 credits out of that, you can charge 10,000 rupees per credit. So you'll get 30,000 rupees for that particular class when you can only get 8,000 from the students. So that will help your economics also, right? So I've been trying to encourage colleges to sort of do few things. One is to encourage professionals to attend class with students. That will give you benefits everywhere else. It will also elevate the quality of the classroom. So if you're doing a heat transfer class and you have people from Thermax and Praj and other people attending that class, all of a sudden they're going to ask very different kinds of questions, and that will elevate the quality of the classroom as well. And for me, as for example, I did not have any training in law. I wanted to learn, say, contract law. I should be able to go to the law college, attend 1 credit course, and learn about contract law. Correct? So this whole concept of why should student be extended only till you are 22, and once you get a degree, you are a professional, you are not a student. That concept needs to change. We need to be continuously learning. And as a student, I need to be a student for life, and I'm a learner for life. So colleges should think about selling people like me lifelong subscriptions to be a student for life.
Very, very
Yes.
excellent. Excellent.
So I just cannot hold myself back from asking you one more question. So any specific point which you would like to emphasize for the girl students?
No, I think we have. So again, I would say that today there are lots of girls who are coming to college, and I think we need to encourage girl students for sure. And we at Persistent have a program which we call Kiran Girls Scholarship. We give scholarships to young girls who deserve the money, and we want to make sure that financial reasons are not holding women back. First thing. Second, I believe that this whole work from anywhere, second, becoming an entrepreneur, and all of these things actually help women in a big way. So I have been working very closely with Niti Aayog on a project to help women entrepreneurs happen. So I believe that, women should look at entrepreneurship as a serious option. Now, the third, of course, the bigger problem in all of these with respect to girl students is not the girls, is the family support and parents and their expectations of what they have of girls. And after they get married, the family, that husbands and other things that need to be. So I think sensitization, of course, we need to encourage girls and women to become, strong and be persistent and really help them be successful. But I think as part of college education, it's important that we sensitize the men about how to deal with women on an ongoing basis. Today, what happens is that the lack of women at senior leadership roles in companies is not a women problem alone. It's a men problem. Men are not treating women with the respect that they need to treat them with, and do not sort of make assumptions about women which are not true. So I think this kind of sensitization of gender and equality, or trying to help men understand, how to work with women as professionals, needs to start with colleges as well. So I would include diversity, gender, and these kinds of discussions as part of important discussions that you need to have in as part of your college education as well.
Yes, very much.
Do you agree, Karode sir?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I fully support, and I happen to work in the corporate world, so I have seen that is happening today. If you look at, in fact, all walks of corporate world, very different. Sir, I hope you have seen the interviews of Indra Nui in this regard.
Yes. I think she has. Yes, she's definitely pretty amazing in terms of her thought process and how she thinks about it. But this is a problem that people discuss a lot. But they always say, "Oh, women need to do this, or women need to do that." The reality is that men do not allow women to do things that they should be allowing us. We do not I think men need to be sensitized to the fact and need to learn better on how to work with women as a team and as peers and professionals. And I think this starts in college itself. So if you look at project groups that you have in colleges, the girls form their own group, boys form their own groups. The girls and boys are not necessarily talking to each other in many classrooms. If you go to them, the left side is all women and right side is all men or whatever. So all the women sit together, they all have lunch together. All the men sit together, they have lunch together. So, we are not doing enough to help men and women understand what it means to work together. And in the way the setup is, there are more men at senior levels, and this keeps going on. So I think it's important that we reset the circuits for the men early on to make sure that women are encouraged and at workplaces.
Thank you, sir.
So,
Thank you, sir.
Shavadkar sir, do we come to conclusion?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir.
First of all, Dr. Anand, I would like to personally give a thanks to you for accepting my invitation and coming on this platform and sharing your thoughts with the students. I was looking at the count of participants who have attended the session. The number is more than 900. And I don't know how many people have attended on Facebook. Probably Shavadkar sir can tell you. But
Yes, sir. There is also a huge number is there in the Facebook.
yes. So first of all, thank you very much. And the good example which you are given about networking, and it's my personal satisfaction that you accepted my request. Thanks to you, and thanks to Shekhar Sahasrabudhe, who is my close friend, through whom I could reach you, and you accepted the invitation. What is important? So let me tell you in my one line, I am going to listen to this entire video once again from the college and start taking down the notes. I left it halfway. I started taking down the notes at the beginning, but then the number of points which came were so good, so many, that I could not keep up with the speed at which you were talking about. So I'm going to request the college to send me the link of this video once again, and I'm going to see it again and again and to make a nice document on this your session, which is going to help me personally as well as to the students in a big way, and to the teaching community who is also attending quite a lot. So, and you spoke on almost all parts of the topic, which we decided mainly on that. But I think you covered almost all parts, and you answered almost all the questions in a very nice, simple way, not making anything which is very complex. So thank you very much. On behalf of CSI, I would like to thank you. I would like to thank KKR College Principal Sir and the Shavadkar Sir, entire panel members. Thank you very much on that. Thank you very much, Persistent, and thank you once again. And I think let us keep in touch now again and again. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. And
Thank you,
thanks
sir.
for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
On behalf of CII, I would like to thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So we will end the meeting, sir.
Yeah, we can end the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you once again to all for participating in this event. Thank you.
So that was the session which you seen just now. I hope you have enjoyed. संघवी सर शटडाऊन करायचं का?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we should switch off now, no?
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karode sir, for arranging this kind of interaction session. Hope everyone enjoyed the session. It was really a it was really interactive and knowledgeable talk for the student and professionals also.
Yes.
Dr. Deshpande sir answered all questions very well, and we all really enjoyed the session, sir. Thank you once again, Shri Karode sir, the fellow member of CSI, Dr. M.R. Sanghvi sir, the chairman of CSI, for organizing such a wonderful session for all student branches. So with the permission of you, sir, shall I close this particular session?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay.